Hi everyone, and welcome to just an evening of poetry with myself, Sarah Hobbs. On this what is a lovely, glorious evening. So tonight's going to be a little bit different. It's going to be more informal, a bit more of a chat. Please feel free to write questions and stuff in the comments, and I will answer them as I go. I'm going to be reading some poems from my book, Dolly in Verse. No, that's for you because the other way around. But I hope you enjoy it. And any questions, please feel free to put them in the comments. And I will also be talking about sort of some of the reasons why I've chosen some of these poems. And I'm pretty much going to choose some of these poems by random. So hope you like them. I'll just crack on with the first poem. Okay. Oh, good one. Paranoia. She is on her pedestal. She is on her pedestal awaiting confirmation. She is on her pedestal awaiting confirmation of her many thoughts. She is on her pedestal awaiting confirmation of her many thoughts, talking to each other. She is on her pedestal awaiting confirmation of her many thoughts, talking to each other as each voice gets louder. She is on her pedestal, awaiting confirmation of her many thoughts, talking to each other as each voice gets louder, screaming in unison. She is on her pedestal, awaiting confirmation of her many thoughts, talking to each other as each voice gets louder, screaming in unison, until finally quiet. She is on her pedestal, awaiting confirmation of her many thoughts, talking to each other as each voice gets louder, screaming in unison, until finally quiet, peace prevailing over noise. So this poem is, I called it Paranoia, and when I wrote it like it's a loop, so it keeps going around, it's very repetitive. But I kind of thought, well, actually on Paranoia, that's quite true. There is always, there's going to be constant repetition, there's going to be constant thoughts, but there's always going to be things added to them. And when you look at Dali's painting, it's very similar. And that's kind of where I draw the inspiration for this poem, just because of the repetitiveness of some of the imagery and just paranoia in general. I hope you like that one. So looking back on it, I wrote this book when, I think it must have been 3 or 4 years ago. I went to the Tate Modern in London, and I saw one of Dali's paintings hanging on the wall. And I was just looking at it, and I was just so captivated by its imagination, by its imagery. And I was just in awe. And part of me wanted to pay homage to Dali. And I thought, well, I'm not really an artist. I can't really do what he does, and no one really can. And so I thought, well, why not? I can put his vision, his imagery into words and put it into verse. And that's kind of where the whole idea of the book came about, was from basically just seeing one of his paintings that sparked inspiration. So inspiration can be from anywhere, from anything. So just draw on it. If anything inspires you, just go with it. Let it be part of you. Cool. Let's pick another poem. Oh, okay, maybe not that one. Okay, I don't think I've really performed this one. It's called The Disintegration of the Persistence of Memory. Quite a long title, and there's quite a bit going on within the painting. But this is my take on it. I have forgotten what needs to be remembered. I have forgotten what time of day it is. I have forgotten what it is like to remember. I have forgotten my own name. I have forgotten life and how to live. I have forgotten you. I have forgotten the relentlessness of forgetful memory. So here as well as looking at the painting itself, I drew inspiration from the title, because the title is quite a unique title. And I thought, well, the disintegration, that word actually got me thinking. I was like, actually, that's quite true. What if things are quite fragmented? What if you look at something and you're just forgetting a little piece of it each time? Or in life, if you're forgetting a little piece of something each time. So I kind of tried to draw that into the poem, hence there's quite a lot of repetition. Pretty similar to the other poem, actually. I think it works quite nicely. I will say again that if you have any questions, please feel free to add them to the comments, and I'll do my best to answer them as we go through. But I hope you're enjoying it so far. Another poem. Oh, cool. Mountain Lake. Shiny, shimmering. Water glistens as an eerie quietness descends. Silent, still. In the distance, a ringing reverberates across the hills. Alone, arbitrary. Bleakness of a voice stealing itself to reveal all. Hoarse, harsh. Deep crackling down the line. Hello? The sky is desolate. Crackle, crackling follows a loud, deafening dial tone. So yeah, if you see this painting is it has the main part of the painting is a very old styled, or probably not when Dali was painting it, but a telephone, just a telephone in the middle of a lake. And I just thought its symbolism was quite striking of, just nothingness on the other end, just being quite solitary. And I thought that was quite interesting. So yeah, that kind of drew the inspiration for that poem there. Okay, so we've had a question from Lucy. What's your favourite poem from the collection? Good one. I think I have a few. There's some that lend themselves quite nicely to the actual page. Let me see if I can find this one. So this one, for instance, is like a rose. So it's very visual on the page. Quite like that one. But in terms of just for words, I quite like the loop poems that I did. So the paranoia one that I read first. And I have another one, which I will read to you now, called Autumnal Cannibalism. As summer draws its end, a new beginning approaches, grey in outlook and bleak in its assured countenance, awaiting the arrival of the darkness and the cold. It reveals its plans for the end of the penultimate season. Winter is coming for certain. Grey in outlook and bleak in its assured countenance, awaiting the arrival of the darkness and the cold, it reveals its plans for the end of the penultimate season. Winter is coming for certain. Awaiting the arrival of the darkness and the cold, it reveals its plans for the end of the penultimate season. Winter is coming for certain. Revealing its plans for the end of the penultimate season. Winter is coming for certain. Winter is coming for certain. Now, I really like this one because, again, it's very repetitive, but in contrast to the paranoia one, the poem's kind of digesting itself, which lends itself really nicely to the title, Autumnal Cannibalism. So what I'm trying to achieve with this is that autumn is digesting itself into winter. So it's quite striking, very similar to the painting by Dali. It's very striking, it's very vivid, and yeah, it kind of just does what it says. Brilliant. Thank you, Emma, for that comment. That's lovely. So yeah, we'll go on. So before I read another poem, I'm going to talk some more about sort of my processes when writing this book. So after seeing that painting, funnily enough, I was in a charity shop and I stumbled upon this book, Dali, by Dawn Aids. And it's brilliant. It literally it doesn't just talk about his art, his paintings, but it goes into the psyche of Dali. It talks about his life, influences, what's happening at certain times while he's painting and he's creating different things. So you can kind of get to understand the man, the person underneath underneath all the layers of paint, really, and art. So I thought it was really, really good portrayal of Dali, and it really kind of helped me understand him as a person as well as an artist, which I then was able to draw on for poems within the book. And so on that, let's read another poem. Let's have a look. This one's called The Sacrament of the Last Supper. Cleansing my spiritual self around a table of friends, I baptize myself within the 7 vials of wine consumed. My confirmation has been ordained by the Almighty. Anointed as the Son of God, I sit and digest myself, paying penance for the sins of the human race. Now I am married to my Father above. The meal ends, heads bowed as I transcend to destiny. So this one, the painting is very much like the Last Supper, as it has in the description, but slightly different, slightly nuanced imagery within it. And I kind of took each of the 7 sacraments in this and used that as the basis for each stanza of the poem. So each stanza is only 2 lines. So it's this one here. And I kind of used that as a basis for how I wanted to talk about it, how I wanted to base the poem. And then, it kind of just then created itself. So it was quite a nice one to do. And if you haven't checked out the painting's really cool as well. Okay, let's do another poem. Let's do, okay. So out of all of my favourite paintings, this one's my favourite. It's called Metamorphosis of Narcissus. And it has 2 hands coming out the lake with a flower on each one. And they're very different and they're very unique. And then there's lots of stuff. The background's really busy. There's lots of stuff going on behind. And I just thought it's one of the first paintings I actually saw of Dali's. And ever since then, I've just been captivated by like the dream essence of his paintings. And so I kind of had to put this one down onto paper and into the book. So here it is, Metamorphosis of Narcissus. Is this my hand I see before me, floating from a pool enigmatically? But wait, it's different, distorted, discoloured and misshapen from what I see when I look down. It does not feel like me at all. But I cannot help but stare at it as others go on blindly living everyday lives, bursting with unfulfilled satisfaction. The water is muddied, trodden by the wretched feet of difference, watered footprints echoing across the sand. As each foot walks through my thoughts, while I ponder about the image before me, reflecting and shimmering the change in me. So this poem's all about change, metamorphosis. It's all about, that's pretty much it. Difference and change, and everything's always doing that. So it's quite an interesting one to do. Okay, I'll do this one next to it. It's called Swans Reflecting Elephants. Sleek and graceful, the length of its neck stretches to the water beneath. Whitish grey poised in posture, whilst taking a drink of water, whitish grey poised in posture to the water beneath. The length of its trunk stretches, sleek and graceful. So that's written in a mirrored poem style. So it kind of reflects. But again, like surrealism, everything isn't quite as it seems. So there's a word that's changed within each stanza. So it's very short. It's just that one there. But it's just, one word. So it's necks in the first stanza, and then its trunks in the last one, to reflect swans and elephants. So tried to be quite different and a bit creative with that one. Cool. Don't forget, if you have a question, please feel free to put it in the comments and in the chat, and I'll do my best to answer them. Okay, so back to poetry. Where's that one? Just that one. Next one I want to read to you. It's actually quite a personal one for Dali. If I can find it. Cool, got it. It's called Portrait of My Father. So a little bit of background to this poem. Dali had a very estranged relationship with his dad, especially when he was younger. They didn't agree predominantly a lot of on political ideologies, but he painted this portrait of his father that was very unsurreal. It was very portrait-like in essence, and he was trying to capture his father. So here's my take on that portrait. Portrait of my father. Stern-faced, poised and fixed, rocking back and forth, sitting in a chair, transfixed. A twitch by the eyes ticks as he considers what's in store, stern-faced, poised and fixed. Pipe in hand, tobacco mixed, feet scuffing dust upon the floor, sitting in a chair, transfixed. White shirt, nothing wrist, his tobacco tightly secured, stern-faced, poised and fixed. Greying hair added to the list of the aged man I see before, sitting in a chair transfixed. A curl of his tight lip twist as he remembers a lost thought, stern-faced, poised and fixed, sitting in a chair transfixed. So again, I like the portrait itself, very rigid, very formal. I went very rigid, very formal with this poem in the style of Villanelle. And with any Villanelle, it's very rigid to form, very structured. And I thought that worked quite well with the structure and the form of the painting, and his idea of the image of his father. So that's where the inspiration and the idea for that poem came about, and yeah, how it flowed. Brilliant. We've got a couple of questions. Okay, so one from Kathleen. Why did you decide to write a collection on Dali? Again, ever since I was at school and doing art at school, he was probably the only artist really that I kind of really resonated with. So that for me was kind of sparked the interest in Dali. And again, it was just on a trip to Tate Modern, as I mentioned earlier, that I saw one of his paintings live, and I thought, well, I've got to pay homage. I've got to do something to show my, what should we say, my celebration of his work and as him as an artist. So that's kind of where the idea of the book came about. And another question. And any other artists you would like and would consider doing the same? Interesting. I have been toying with this for a while. There's an artist, but also architect called Guidry, who you might have heard. He's done the Gaudi Cathedral in Barcelona, but he's done so many other amazing architectural pieces of art, as well as ordinary sort of canvas pieces of art as well. And potentially he might be my next one that I look into a little bit more. And I think that's that's the only one that's striking to me at the moment. I think, like I said before, inspiration can hit you at any point, and I think just roll with it. And I think that's the way you got to go with stuff. So if I'm out there, if I see something by anyone, then I might consider doing the same. There was a surrealist artist also who commented on the book called Amy Guidry, and her work is amazing. If you haven't seen it already, check her out. It's again very surreal. It's kind of Dali-like, but in a modern twist. And yeah, really, really good. She focuses a lot more on animals, and that's quite intriguing. So yeah, she's an interesting one as well. So I've been keeping tabs on some of her artworks and things like that. So yeah, potential there. Cool. Emma, how do you incorporate the surrealism into your poetry? Good question. So I think it depends on the piece. It depends on the piece of art, because every piece of art is different. Pretty much like every poem is different. And then I look at potential form. So like with that portrait of my father, I use villanelle. Or like with the paranoia and the autumnal cannibalism one, where I use the loop style poem. I think it's kind of finding that balance of which one or which form, which style will work for each topic. I think that's a trick. I mean, yeah, I just keep working at it until I find the right structure for the poem. Cool. I'll do one more poem. I'll answer another question. Cool. This one's called The Dream. Even here he halts my fantasies, blocking them from existence. It recurs to me every night, my eyes closed, persistent. Reaching deliriously vivid visions, alas they are shown no more, kept hidden and suppressed, deep within my psychic core. However, its remnants still lurk, crawling and feeling their way to the surface of my subconscious, feeling them gnawing at my brain. I am lost, a slave to my inner thoughts and what they show, images strategically pulled into flashbacks, they come and go. But their essence lives on and inspires me to follow my desires, to succumb to passion's allure, my mind and heart in lusty fire. My awakening brings a new dawn, one dark and not so sweet, as the other I left behind me is where desire and the mind meet. Reality shows itself to disallow the passion that engulfs me. Instead, I am to find alternative ways to fill my carnal needs. Nothing will match the extent of the image I have been shown. Now I am stunned, shortened, not allowed to let my longing flow. I see you in the flesh, but I see that you are an imposter, unreal. I try to comprehend my sight, but I am confounded, it's too surreal. My subconscious bids me to sleep. It calls me to lay my head down and close my eyes tightly so I can return to lust's playground. Cool. Yeah, that one's, again, there's a lot going on in that painting. So if you see it, there's a lot in there. And yeah, it's basically just showing a dream, and yeah, it's quite vivid in its imagery. So yeah, check it out. Cool. Emma, and have you been to Barcelona to see his work? I have been to Barcelona once, and again, the Gaudi Cathedral is still under construction, so it's not finished. It's it was started quite a while ago, and it's still in construction. That's how striking, how big and bold it actually is, and how long it's taken. If you ever get a chance, do go, because you can actually go and still go inside and see it and stuff. And just the imagery and the architecture and the detail, even on the outside, is amazing. So yeah, I definitely recommend that. But even in Barcelona, there's still a few more other Gaudi sites that I haven't been to. So I think there's still a lot to explore. So yeah, I think I'd definitely go back to Barcelona just to have another look and again be inspired by some other art and artists. So definitely want to develop and explore more. Okay, I think I'm going to read the second poem in this book now. Yeah. It's called The Burning Giraffe, and it's in 2 parts. 1. A blaze in the shadows, lost in the background. Darkness ensues and covers the ground. Unnoticed and lost in a world now blind. Orange flames rise high as I employ to find me still standing tall, proud and resigned to the fate that is my eventual demise. My eyes and tears are stinging blurry eyes. My body suddenly falls. My soul gracefully flies. 2. Back pain soars through my hips to my brain. I'm being pulled roughly backwards in an arch. my head twisting in profound agony, suffering and becoming distorted in darkness. I am empty. The drawers of my being have been opened, and my innards have been revealed to everyone. Secrets not safe. Oblivious I have become to everything around me. That a burning giraffe escapes my attention, smouldering in the darkness. Now, there's in this painting, there's a couple of things that are going on. There's as it says, a burning giraffe. There's two of them actually in the foreground, but then there's some people behind, and they've got like drawers for body parts and things like that, and it's very striking. So I've written the poem from both perspectives actually, from the giraffe's perspective as well as the figure's perspective as well. So again, it's very symbolic. Well, I can't remember the word for it now. Tongue-tied. There's a lot going on in that. So definitely check out that painting. I'm gonna read. I'll read this one. Christ of St. John on the Cross. Again, as I mentioned earlier, there's quite a few poems in this book that are that are basically written for the page, but they can be performed as well, but they're very striking on the page. And this one's called Christ of St. John of the Cross. And as you can see, very visual in terms of how it looks on the page. So here it is, Christ of St. John of the Cross. Hanging, left arm, right arm, suspended limply as head falls, looking down upon the masses, unassuming, humbled, regal in its posture, pain coursing through thin tiny veins, pumping the judgment of the many as darkness takes its hold upon the individual. Feet are together, bound by the gravity and the weight of the world, all of this on a single person, as the clouds form above, calling, singing for him to come home. No more pain, no more suffering, not for him, and definitely not for the individuals oblivious below. Dali did do quite a few, I wouldn't call them religious paintings because they're not, but religion did creep into a few of his pieces of art. When he did tackle them, they were quite vivid, quite striking, and very interesting in his take on certain things, especially the crucifixion and the Last Supper. That was kind of the more prominent feel, the ending of Jesus and stuff. So it's quite an interesting one to look at, and I have incorporated a couple of them in here, like the Last Supper painting and obviously this one as well. So quite cool. Lucy, was any poem harder to write than others? As in you really liked a certain Dali painting but struggled to turn it into a poem? Yeah, good question. There's a few that I did struggle with. I think the Villanelle was quite hard. The portrait of my father, that was quite hard, and it was very structured, very rigid. And I really had to kind of think about where things were going to go and how it was going to work. And then there were other poems that just flowed, that just wrote, and I wasn't really too restricted by form. I'm just thinking of a painting that I kind of struggled with. Let me have a look. I mean, there was this one actually I'll just flick to, called Geopoliticus, Child Watching the Birth of the New Man. Is quite long-winded, and there's quite a few of those that have got quite long titles. So there's Two Pieces of Bread Expressing the Sentiment of Love. There's the other one. Oh yeah, Dream Caused by the Flight of a Bee Around a Pomegranate. That was quite an interesting one. Again, very vivid in its imagery in terms of the title as well as the poem, the painting. So I kind of had to work all that into the poem. I'll do that one now. Eyes closed, colours form. A pomegranate vortex appears out of nowhere within icy blue sky. Tigers pounce paw first out of its pipped core, teeth bared, claws extended. A fish attacks gum first, wrapping its salty lips tail first as the tiger's roar booms. Naked, a woman bathes as unknowing danger approaches, barrel pointed and poised. Striding along the horizon, an elephant towers high over the waves on stilted legs. A bee flies noisily around a blood-red pomegranate, signaling the end of her vision. I awake abruptly. The dream ends. So there was a lot going on in that painting. So much happening that I was trying to sort of figure out what the potential story was to that painting, which was quite hard, and especially when there was so much going on, to try and capture that into the poem itself, I found quite challenging. But again, I quite like that challenge as well of trying to make sure everything worked and it all had its part to play in the poem. So yeah, that was an interesting one. Another one of my favourite paintings by Dali is called The Meditative Rose. And again, this is a very visual but very simplistic piece of his. And I'd say simplistic, not that it's overly simple, but it's less busy than some of his other paintings. So yeah, The Meditative Rose. Stemless, reflective, surrounded by quietness, petals opening, revealing its core beneath, fragile but honest. Memories form and come together. Emotions slowly rise as a single tear forms on the surface of a lit red petal as it slowly falls into meditative contemplation. Going back to sort of writing the book and things, I think one of the things that I think, instead of just rushing in, because normally what I would do is, if I get an idea, and those kind of closest to me would know this, if I get an idea, I will go full steam with it and I'll just dive in. And with this book, I kind of had to hold myself back a bit because I wanted to do it justice, and I wanted to do justice to Dali and his paintings. So the first 6 to 8 months, I was doing a lot of looking at the paintings, and I was doing a lot of, again, like I said before, background reading on Dali and his works, and just trying to understand the man behind the canvas and just get an idea of sort of why he decided to paint certain pieces and what was happening in his life at certain points and stuff like that. And I thought, actually, that gave me a good grounding then when I wrote the poems, to understand what he was trying to achieve through the paintings, which I could then hopefully help transfer onto the page. So yeah, on that, I'm going to now read one. Yeah. So, it's called Galatea. Sculpted in ice white, your form taking shape, each piece of you now being brought forward into its physical and rightful position to find your identity's beauty, natural, gracious. Your movements dance on and on, bringing light to the darkness that has become all-consuming. But you, yes, wonderful you, have found a light that originated from the perfection of your marbled construction. Breathtaking. So he wrote that one he was married, his wife was called Gala, and he wrote this poem for her. And they had an interesting relationship. He brought her a castle where she could go and live, and he had to have permission to go and visit her. And yeah, they would write letters and I think even some poems they would write to each other. And yeah, they had an interesting relationship, but yeah, it was a really interesting couple. Okay, this next poem, I don't think I've actually performed this one, but it's called The Hand. Extended but empty of contents. Nothing is offered in place of normal contributions. Masses of people gather to see what has been brought. But hark, alas, this is not the case. The hand that feeds us now barren and sterile, dust in place of sustenance. Anger and revolt shines through. The vast crowd now amassed in front of the altar. One morsel to touch our lips, quench our hunger, make us virile again. No response from those who watch with sated bellies and quenched thirsts. People below left to watch with hunger-filled eyes. Now, this poem's an interesting one because this one was, the painting is actually quite political, and for a lot of his career, Dali just was very apolitical. He didn't really want to get involved with politics, which was one of the reasons why he got, he left the Surrealist movement, is because they were becoming too political, and he had quite a few confrontations with Andre Breton, who headed up the Surrealist movement around that. But actually, this piece is this painting is very political, which is quite surprising, especially for him. So I decided to do this piece in they call it like a prose poetry. So it kind of flows across the page. So it reads like a piece of prose. Then it still has that element of metaphor and form to it as well. So it's quite an interesting way of doing it. And I found that one quite an interesting piece to do. I'd never done that before. So taking the time to look at the new form was really, really interesting and challenging. Okay, probably got time for a couple more poems, but if you do have any other questions, please do ask. And again, thank you for everyone who has asked a question. They've been brilliant questions, and I hope I've been able to answer them for you. Let's have a look. Which one shall I do? Okay. I'm going to do this one. The persistence of memory. Time comes back. It haunts us. It daunts us with memories. Memories deemed lost, they return. They yearn for our remembrance. Hands ticked, long and short in newfound thought as one is played, again and again, shiny and golden. Now I am beholden by the hands of time, while this memory plays on repeat. So I kind of linked this one to one that I read earlier on, the disintegration of the persistence of memory. So he did quite like doing like series of paintings. So this was a painting, two paintings around the same kind of topic. But I kind of structured this one of memory and the power that memory has, and how it makes us think and it keeps coming back. So there's a bit of repetition and rhyme there. In comparison to the other one, which was the disintegration of memory, where I focused more on being forgetful and pieces not seeming to fit and things like that. So that's why my approach to that one. Cool. Check any more questions. No? Okay, cool. And we'll do another poem. Let's see. Okay. Yeah, this could be an interesting one. Again, within Dali's paintings, there's a lot of layers to his paintings that help tell the story. And I think that's what I tried to do with this poem. Again, it's a 3-part poem, but trying to tell the story within it. So it's called The 3 Ages. 1. Old age. Bones bowing, mane mellowing, years taking their toll. Measured movements, speech slurred, I think before doing. Tangled thoughts, muddled minds, struggling for answers. Crooked column, stumbling steps, cane supporting. 2. Adolescence. Towering above with an assured posture and a straightened spine. Youthful exuberance surrounds my aura. striding with poise. I survey my surroundings, confident, ambitious, ready to take on the world. 3. Infancy. Arm before leg. I must remember arm before leg. Inch by inch, my body moves. Inch by inch. Pull, not push. Clawing, crawling. Pull, not push. So in this painting, there's imageries of an old person, an adolescent, and an infant, and they're all hidden cleverly within the main image. So they're images within the painting. And I thought it was a really clever way of portraying the 3 stages of life. And that's pretty much what I tried to capture here. So yeah, that was kind of that one. I quite like the way it's all structured, and it's quite in their stages as well. It's kept to their stages. So I haven't tried to mix them together. I haven't tried to make them into some sort of social group or social kind of setting. I've kept them in their stages as well, which was an interesting approach, and I quite like that because it matches the painting, and that was the aim. Okay, we've had a question. So Kathleen, what's your next piece you're working on? Are you working on another book? So yes, I am. I'm currently doing a bit of an internal analysis. So my next collection is called Roots. It was supposed to be out this month, but yeah, with everything going on and with personal things happening, I decided to push it back to next year. So that'll be out May next year. And it's all about my roots, where I've come from, my journey, my family's journey and history and memories. So it's kind of an autobiographical collection, which has been quite a journey to put together. So yeah, keep watch. It's going to be an interesting collection, and I can't wait until it's finished. So yeah, currently writing. Still got a few more poems to write in that one, but yeah, hopefully out May next year. Cool. Brilliant. I will read one final poem, and then if there's any final questions, I'll answer them. And if not, I'll bid you adieu. Brilliant. Okay. I can't not finish a book about Dali without finishing on a poem about Dali himself. So yeah, here it is. Dali. You perceive shapes and objects, form them into the narrative that you explore within the construction of your works of art. Form them into the narrative, the characters you have built, construction of your works of art, displaying your true persona. The characters you have built tell obscure surrealist stories, displaying your true or persona, the scenes depicting your true self. Tell obscure surrealist stories that you explore within the scenes depicting your true self, as you perceive shapes and objects. So this one, again, is very structured, very shaped by form. And it's, I can't remember what the name of the form is, but it was really an interesting one because you're taking certain lines from one stanza and then putting them into the other stanza. So they all have to work, but they've all got to tell a story. And what I tried to do with this poem was not tell Dali's story in one poem, because I just don't think that's going to be possible, but actually to just think about his creative process and try and get that down. And I think I've tried to do that here. Yeah, so this is more around his creative process rather than the man. Again, I can't presume stuff. I've unfortunately never met the man. I wish I could have. I wish I could. But this is more around his creative thinking, his processes when creating his masterpieces. And I'll put a quote under this, and this is from Dali, that reads, "The fact that I myself, at the moment of painting, do not understand my own pictures does not mean that these pictures have no meaning. On the contrary, their meaning is so profound, complex, coherent, and involuntary that it escapes the most simple analysis of logical intuition." So again, that's from him. So I took that quote and turned it into a poem about his creative process. So yeah, that's there's still a few poems that I haven't read from here. But yeah, that's kind of been 45 minutes, bang on, wow, on Dali. And yeah, I'd like to thank everyone who's contributed and asked some amazing questions. And yeah, thank you for taking time during lockdown to sit with me and listen to some of my poetry. I really do appreciate it. Yeah, I know we're finding ourselves in some tough times at the moment, but again, there's all that, you know, we've all come through this, and we've all sort of better, bigger, stronger, and more creative. So yeah, there will be more poems and stuff like that coming out. So watch this space, follow me on Twitter, subscribe to my YouTube channel, and yeah, leave any comments you wish below and I will respond. So yeah, again, thank you for everyone for their questions, and yeah, have a good evening. Take care. Bye.